Luke, I just watched the film. I watched
Good.
it last night. I made notes as I watched it.
Great.
My first question when watching it was, why did you want to do this? Or what was the purpose of it? What did you get out of it? So how did this begin? How did the idea of I'm going to make a film, I'm going to drive it, and it's going to be largely about Bogues?
Yeah, it's several-fold. So being back in the game and helping to grow and drive the sport is giving me a lot of joy. And I also really enjoyed the experiences I've had before making my own doco. And then ESPN and Hahn approached me about doing some storytelling, which I haven't done before, but I was intrigued to do. You know, we all take on new things. And I started to think about interesting stories in basketball. And for me, in Australian basketball, for me, Bogues' story is intriguing in a bunch of ways. The way that we overlap, the way his character is misrepresented at the same time as being accurate. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, later. But really, for me, it's just an adventure, something new, something I haven't done, and something that I think gives back to the sport, tells interesting stories in the sport.
Why did you want to drive it? Like you're in it, and you know, there's almost like a podcast setup as well. Why did you want to have your voice be part of it too?
I think particularly with this is that, for me, is that me and Bogues are so different and so much the same all at the same time that I wanted that to come across in the film. I wanted people to see that friction and acceptance, that you don't have to be at opposite ends, and that's interesting, I think. And that's part of being on teams too. You can't always pick the characters, but you find the bits you like in them. So why am I in it? I guess to give context to Bogues, my own context.
Because your context is you live out in Western Australia in the middle, respectively, the middle of nowhere, right? And so bringing him into that environment was really interesting for us to see. What was it like for you when he first stepped into your environment, which is different than what we all exist in?
Yeah, strangely, I was nervous when he was coming down to see my environment, because it's not everyone's cup of tea being in the bush, being a long way from everywhere. You know, the phone reception's sketchy. You live. It's pretty crude, you know. And I don't know why I was nervous actually, but I think it was just you showing someone your home. You're always a bit like that.
Like a pride thing?
I wanted him to like it.
Yeah.
You know, you want people to like it when they come over to your house. I cooked him a meal. I want him to like that. I guess that's just being a host. But having him there was important to me because the idea was that we made him uncomfortable and stripped him back a little bit because he's got the armour,
Yeah.
So we want to take away some of that and see if we could find the soft bits, and we did, I think.
What did you learn about him? I watched this whole thing. I've covered basketball in this country for a really long time. I learned some stuff about Bogues, his media cynicism and skepticism. I wasn't entirely sure where that came from, and I got a better idea of that being around him and having him in your in your space. What did you learn about him that you didn't know before?
Yeah, what I didn't understand about Bogues that I know now is that he's an incredible adapter. He collects data and information, makes an opinion, often the wrong opinion. We all know that, and then he adapts to it. He commits, and you can walk into an argument with Bogues at the other sides of the table, and if you present an argument that makes sense, is logical, he will come to your side of the table. He is an adapter. He's not stuck. And that, to me, that blew me away.
Did you learn that while filming? Because you mentioned it in the film that he is a good adapter, and I think that was around the time where I think you're doing some stuff in your shed, and then he's out in the water. But you've been an owner with him for a little bit. Did you not witness that there, or did it take this experience for you to really see that side of him?
It took filming the film to see that side of Bogues the way I do now, because for whatever reason he chose to let us in, And when you try to do it, that was the idea of being down in Denmark, is to hopefully get him to let us in. He led us into that. Whereas in the ownership scenario around basketball, he's more black and white and more deliberate, where getting him relaxed and out of his comfort zone worked. It was a gamble, it worked, and I got to see him more for I guess vulnerabilities is probably wrong, but for all the bits of him.
Was there any part of him existing in your space that he wasn't completely comfortable with? Anything that he declined to do, or did every challenge you put in front of him, he said, I'm going to do that?
Yeah, he approached them all with the same way you would expect Bogues to approach them. He evaluated the risk, collected the data, stepped in carefully, and then once he knew where all the furniture was, he was in. Yeah.
I'm curious because, you bring him into your comfort zone to theoretically get a deep understanding of the guy. Have you ever been put in a situation similar to that, where someone has invited you into their comfort zone that was foreign to you, and they've sort of explored more of you because of that?
Yes, a lot, but not publicly. So in some ways this was public because the camera's always rolling.
Yeah.
I've always had that situation in private. So it was the contrast of it being trying to be personal and get to know him in a new way at the same time as having the cameras rolling. That contrast I haven't done before. So when we came up with the idea, I was skeptical, but it was actually Bogues's, believe it or not, it was Bogues's openness and malleability that allowed it to happen.
Something that I noticed throughout it was one of his former coaches earlier in the film spoke about how everyone thought he was misunderstood. And I imagine that you've gone through a similar cycle of being misunderstood by a lot of people around you. I have been around a lot of big men in Australian basketball who have a similar feeling of being misunderstood in some way. Do you think this is like a common thing with bigs especially, and do you think there's a reason why that's the case?
I think obviously being a big person, there's things come with that.
Yeah.
When you're a kid and you're head and shoulders above everyone else, you know, they treat you like you're older, and there's stuff around that, I think, with being a big.
The other part of it that I picked up was there is like clearly still a rivalry between you two, even if it's unspoken, but it's little things here and there. It's you know, I remember you speaking with him with the beers outside, and you know, talking about the experience of having to get to know each other. Even, you know, toward the end, there's just a constant rivalry between you two. Is that?
No, there's no doubt there's a friction there.
Yeah.
There's a competitive friction, and I think, strangely enough, one of the things I miss about being in a locker room and being in sport is that sort of robust slap each other around camaraderie that's so not popular outside of a locker room, you know, that can be the wrong place at the wrong time. It's good to be around people that you can have those, you can be openly competitive and openly tease, and you understand each other's language, and it's fine, you know. And we've got lots to tease each other about. You know, I'm the hippie, he's the whatever you want to call him. He's the outspoken politically. So that difference is, you know, we get to slap each other around with that, and yeah, there is we're actually just saying over here, I'd love to go back with a time machine and play Prime Bogut versus Prime Longley, right? And he's like, oh, you'd be cactus, you'd be smoked, and I'm thinking, well, probably he's right, but there's some. I reckon I could hold him under his scoring average because you know. So I already, you know, I think like that. It's funny. I think all our ex-athletes do that.
Yeah, because there was the moment in the shed where you were showing him the 3 rings, and then you have this just very organic banter of greatest team of all time.
Yeah.
He has 1 ring, you have 3.
Yeah.
Where do you think it comes from? Is it just a pride thing? Is it like a respect thing between you two that you're
both.
able to have that?
It's pride, it's respect, and it's who else can you have that banter with?
Yeah.
Who else can you do that with? And that's why it's strange that, I mean, if you were looking at it, you might think we'd end up on other teams and competing with each other.
Yeah.
So being in the same team, the same environment, is really quite unusual and quite interesting. And so that competitiveness plays out a little bit in the boardroom and in the selection of teams, and we, you know, fire off each other. But as mentioned, Bogues and I think me as well are able to, I'm wrong, or move on. And you know, you can change people's minds from within the tent more than you can from outside, right? So I'm getting to change Bogues' mind on things, and he changed my mind on things, and that's a fun dynamic, and it's vibrant.
What does it mean to you that you can do something like this and people care about it? Like 10 years ago, make a documentary like this. I don't know if there's an audience for it. Whereas, you know, this is your second one.
Yeah.
What's it like to know that you can do stuff like this and people actually give a shit?
Well, I guess we'll see if people give a shit when we broadcast it. But it is great to have, and that's why, you know, back to being partnered with by Hahn, and having Hahn and ESPN come in and say, yes, we want to fund this, we want you to tell Australian stories. That tells me there's an appetite. I'm not on the ground doing the surveys knowing how many people want to listen to granular basketball stories. You could tell me better than that, because that's partly of what you do. But the fact that there's an audience, and the fact that Australian basketball's here, where they want that's exciting.
What do you want people to take away from this? Obviously, there's the idea of someone making them as part of your comfort zone and getting them out of theirs and finding a deeper truth to them. There's a part of just learning about Andrew in general, right? His career from the start to finish, which I've covered him for a while. I didn't know all of it. What do you want people to take away from this?
Yeah, well, what I want people to take away from this doco is to be excited about going with Andrew on his coaching journey and seeing how he evolves, how his coaching comes together with the different. You heard Steve Kerr in there say that he's one of the brightest basketball minds he's ever coached. Yeah. That's my observation too. He's incredibly sharp, and seeing how that translates. Then the relating to the players part, how that goes for him, because he's quite abrupt and can be abrasive, and he's learning to, he's doing that differently. How that plays out, I think people are going to have really a lot of fun watching him. If it goes the way I think it goes, I think he's going to be a very, very good coach for a very long time, and Australian basketball people can go on that ride with him starting today.
What was the timeline of this with regard to him becoming an assistant coach with the Sydney Kings? Was this filmed?
And that's confidential information.
Was this filmed prior to that decision being made?
No, other way around. So Andrew decided to be a coach with us, and post that, the opportunity came to tell a great story, and so it was just naturally fell into place. I wish we were that clever.
But so then, do you feel way more comfortable, because you were presumably part of the group of people who made that decision? Do you feel more comfortable with that decision now, knowing the adaptability?
I begged him to come and coach, so I didn't have to look at his 6-foot texts after every game. Why did we? Why didn't we? I literally picked up the phone and said, "For f***'s sake, coach," and that's how it started. Sorry, what was your question?
So now that you've gone on this journey with him and you've learned about what you call his adaptability, does that make you way more comfortable about the decision that you've made to make him an important part of this franchise in a different way?
100%. That this making this film has made me, and I think other people around it, much more confident it's a good decision. And I actually probably think Bogs would probably say the same thing. He's going to be good.
Speaking of the NBL, it's been a really interesting off-season of player movement. Obviously, Kendrick Davis coming here to the Sydney Kings was significant, and then that was sort of overshadowed by Bryce. Going to Adelaide, we've seen Milton Doyle change teams. As an owner of a team, what do you make of all of that movement and where this high-level talent just like carouseling?
Couple of things, but for me, I think it keeps the stories fresh. Yeah. I think for me, I've seen a lot of basketball, and I'm interested to see what happens this year in the NBL season, more so probably than other seasons, because of the change, because of some of the embedded rivalries, because some people think that we've made a mistake by pairing Delhi and Kendrick, or that Bryce and Latrell won't work, or all the rivalries. I as an owner, I think it's stimulating.
Then pivoting to the NBA, and when you look at what Australians are doing, but in particular, if you look at what Josh is doing in Chicago, somewhere where you had your success, and just watching the way that that ecosystem rallies around someone like him, and the success he had toward the end of that season, what's it like watching him do that in the place where you called home?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, firstly, he and Dyson particularly, both playing basketball, really interesting basketball. So Josh is a really generous basketballer with the ball creative and shares. Dyson's defensively focused. Those are both sort of anomalies in the NBA. So I love the fact that Australians are being different in the NBA and getting there, doing things that we might think of as being Australian type basketball. They're representing that.
Yeah.
But then they're both having hero moments. So there's a shot of Josh. So I spent a lot of time at the Institute and since with Josh's dad, Warwick.
Yeah.
So I'm close to that story in my own way. I got the Bulls thing, I got the NBA thing. So I saw that shot of him hitting the half-court shot. I don't have any basketball memorabilia in my house, but I'm going to get a copy of that shot and ask Josh to sign it, because it's just such a wonderful moment in basketball. And then the connections for me, it's just, I don't often get giddy about basketball, but I'm giddy about that shot.
Well done. We're going to leave it at that then.
Beauty.
That beautiful pun. Luke, thank you for your time. I would urge everyone to go watch the film, Lane Violation, because it was a really enjoyable watch. Go Disney Plus, ESPN. Good time to watch it. I appreciate your time, and good luck with the reception of the film.
Thanks, Olgun. I appreciate you taking the time to watch it and be interested.